Getting at least a draw against Monaco would mean a record for Thomas Frank. Fabio Paratici, a big fan of Porto centre-forward Samu Agehowa, and rumour around Ivan Toney continues to circulate. Here are your daily Tottenham news headlines. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name's Craig and here are your daily Tottenham news headlines where I'll be going through all the latest news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube and are not already as yet subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. Like, share and comment below. And if you're listening on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. Okay, let's get into it. Sports Mole reports should Tottenham claim at least a point from Wednesday's game against Monaco, Thomas Frank would be the first Spurs head coach ever to go unbeaten in his first 3 Champions League matches. Only once before have the Lily Whites navigated their first 3 games of a Champions League season without suffering defeat, achieving 2 wins and 1 draw under Mauricio Pochettino at the start of the 2017-18 campaign. However, Pochettino suffered defeat in his first Champions League game in charge of Spurs, who coincidentally lost 2-1 to Monaco in the Argentines' maiden top-level European match in the 2016-17 season. In later years, Jose Mourinho was beaten 3-1 by Bayern Munich during his second Champions League match with Tottenham before Antonio Conte's Spurs fell to a 2-0 loss to Sporting Lisbon in the Italian second game. Ange Postecoglou, of course, never took charge of a Champions League match for the North London club, but he did go unbeaten in his first 3 Europa League matches last season before a matchday 4 defeat to Galatasaray. Monaco's solitary point in the Champions League this season came thanks to a last-gasp Eric Dyer penalty against Man City, and the former Tottenham defender would have been on course for a Spurs reunion on Wednesday. The England international represented the Lily Whites for 10 years between 2014 and 2024, making 365 appearances for the club and scoring 13 goals before departing for Bayern Munich. However, Dyer is currently sidelined with a hamstring injury that is expected to keep him out until the middle of November, so the 31-year-old will watch on helplessly from the sidelines against Spurs. Meanwhile, Spurs will be missing the injured Dominic Solanke, James Maddison, Radu Degusin, Dejan Kulusevski, Kota Takai and Yves Bissouma, while Destiny Udogie and Christian Romero are both major doubts for the contest. Tottenham Hotspur are keeping tabs on 21-year-old Olympic gold medalist as Thomas Frank scopes out additional attacking reinforcements, according to a report. As a result, offensive additions are thought to be high on the short list of Spurs sporting director Fabio Paratici, who has been reappointed to the club's transfer hierarchy following his ban after working closely under Antonio Conte. According to TBR Football, the Tottenham chief is a big fan of Porto centre-forward Samu Agehowa, who has been finding the back of the net for fun in Portugal since leaving Atletico Madrid in a high-profile transfer last year. Chelsea appeared to be closing in on Agehowa's signing in 2024, only for the deal to collapse owing to medical issues and an image rights dispute, allowing Porto to swoop in and complete a transfer. The 2004-born protégé, who won gold with Spain at the 2024 Paris Olympics, has since scored a stellar 35 goals in 54 games with Porto in all competitions, including 8 strikes from 9 appearances this season. At first glance, Tottenham would seemingly have to break the bank for Agehowa, who is contracted at Porto until 2029 and has an £87 million release clause. However, the report adds that Porto will almost certainly accept much lower owing to their precarious financial position, meaning that Spurs' biggest concern would be interest from rival clubs. Barcelona are alleged to be considering Agehowa as a potential successor to Robert Lewandowski, who is looking to increasingly likely to depart the Camp Nou when his contract expires at the end of the season. Chelsea's name often still appears in conversations surrounding the former Atletico Madrid striker too, although it remains to be seen if the Blues reignite their interest after capturing João Pedro and Liam Delap. Ivan Toney's name is back in the Premier League rumour mill as the January transfer window approaches, despite the English striker's continued success in Saudi Arabia with Al Ahly. Sources close to the agent's industry have informed Court Offside. Since making the switch to the Middle East, the 29-year-old has maintained an impressive scoring record and quickly become one of the best forwards in the Saudi Pro League. Toney has scored 9 goals and provided 2 assists in 12 appearances this season. His form, coupled with attacking injury concerns at both Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur, has sparked renewed speculation over a possible return to England. Yet while interest is mounting, the reality of a transfer appears far more complicated than it seems. Despite the speculation, those close to the player insist he's happy with his current situation and he's not pushing for a return. Toney's contract with Al Ahly runs until June 2028. Sources also indicate that while Tottenham manager Thomas Frank, who coached Toney during his time at Brentford, remains a big admirer of the striker, he is not among the club's top transfer priorities at this stage. A potential loan has been floated as a possible solution, but the likelihood of Al Ahly agreeing to such an arrangement midway through the season remains slim. For Toney, the prospect of returning to European football is also tied to his England ambitions, with the 2026 World Cup on the horizon. A move back to the Premier League could boost his chances of earning a call to Thomas Tuchel's squad. However, his current circumstances, including a lucrative contract and a comfortable lifestyle in the Middle East, present significant barriers to a January exit. Chelsea too are exploring short-term options, but are wary of entering a complex negotiation for a player settled in Saudi Arabia. Okay, well, here's my thoughts on all those stories today. Firstly, this record that's been discussed for Thomas Frank that he could achieve should we just get a point in Monaco. Obviously, we want 3 points in Monaco, but it seems weird, actually, that is the current situation. It surprises me that we haven't got more points in our first 3 Champions League games ever, but that is the case. So should we draw in Monaco or hopefully win? That will be a record for Thomas Frank. It seems weird, doesn't it? It doesn't seem quite right. Everything seems a bit flat at the moment at Tottenham. People are moaning. I mean, oh God, I moaned like anything about that performance against Villa. For me, something just doesn't seem quite right still at Tottenham. I think there's a lot of work to do. Definitely need reinforcements in those forward areas. Missing big players without a doubt. It says to me, actually, watching that game against Villa at the weekend, that we miss James Maddison. When you actually watch back on what Maddison can do on his day, and look, Maddison hasn't had a run of games, certainly towards the end of last season with another injury for him, where he's really got some real consistency. But on his day, Maddison can do things that I haven't seen Xavi Simons do yet. I know Xavi Simons is capable of it, but Xavi Simons has got to be given the ball, and he wasn't given the ball much through the lines on Sunday. When you look at the pass maps of Bentancur and Palhinha, the ball's just not coming through the middle to him. So yes, he didn't have a very good game, Xavi Simons, and I want to see more from him, but you've got to give him the ball. James Maddison will go and get the ball. He likes to drop a bit deeper. So does Kulusevski when he's in that role. So we are missing these big creative players. So I don't think that should be underestimated. However, the performance from Spurs as a whole against Aston Villa was diabolical, in my opinion. And I'm sure a lot of you agree with that as well. Left wing position and a striker as well. Obviously Solanke's still out. And as I said, JJ and Kulusevski gives us another option up there. But we're just so weak in some areas. We're just not doing the business. So hopefully, coming back to the original story, hopefully we can get something against Monaco, at least a point. I always think a point away in the Champions League is a good point. So I would personally take a point against Monaco and move on. But let's hope for a win, of course. Coming on to the next story, Samu Agehowa. I'd much admit I don't know much about this player, but his numbers seem to be very good. Obviously, that is in a completely different league, the Portuguese league, so it's going to be different. But he was at Atletico Madrid as well. It was a high-profile transfer. I remember reading about it. Chelsea were interested in him, of course. Didn't go through. Paratici loves this player, apparently, so are we going to go in for him? I think this looks like a difficult deal to get done if they're going to go in January. But of course, we've got Solanke and hopefully Kolo Muani is going to be fit. So is the need for a striker paramount? I think that's something I would love to see personally. But if they've got 3 strikers fit, and 4 if you include Tel, even though I don't think Tel is a striker, a number 9. If Randall Kolo Muani Solanke and Richarlison are all fit, do they see that Spurs as okay for the rest of the season? Personally, at the two positions of left wing and centre forward, I would say left wing is the main priority. We need a big left winger in January. If we can get one in, a striker would be nice, but left wing definitely a priority for me. As I say, I'm not going to comment much on this chap, Agehowa, because I don't know too much about him, but his numbers seem pretty good. And I like Fabio Paratigi's thoughts on most players. Yes, he's had some bad ones in the past, but generally I think he's a good judge. So I think I'll leave that one to him because I can't comment much on it. But what I can comment on is Ivan Toney. Again, another striker, obviously. Thomas Frank's worked with him at Brentford in the past. Could I see Toney coming back in January to Tottenham? No, I couldn't. Would I want Ivan Toney back? A lot of people said his attitude's a bit wrong, even though Thomas Frank, obviously worked with the player, he knows him better than I do, or any of us, of course. When I mentioned Ivan Toney before with the links, it was mixed in the comments and the reception and the thought of Ivan Toney coming to Tottenham. It was a bit mixed. People tend to not like him, I would say, rather than those that want him. There was a few fans out there, a few of you that did want him, but get down in the comments, let me know. Would you be interested in having Ivan Toney at Tottenham? Do you think that would be a good move for Spurs? I don't think it will happen, but if we could get him, would you like to see Ivan Toney at Spurs? But get down in the comments, let me know your thoughts on all those stories today, or how you're feeling as a Tottenham Hotspur fan right now. Before the Monaco game on Wednesday, another big Champions League game. Games coming thick and fast, and of course we got Everton on Sunday. It doesn't slow down now. We've got games coming thick and fast. But as always, get down in the comments, let me know how you're feeling as a Tottenham Hotspur fan right now, as I say. And as always, come on you Spurs.